Okay, so in this session, I'm basically going to be speaking about, I just want to see quickly if my audio is on and then you can hear me. Yes, okay. So in this session, I'm going to be looking at um, network architecture, the first network architecture. The code is NWAR5112 or NWAR5122 based on the program that you are part of. Now, here we can look at the organizational content. You can see that there's a folder that has been created here. No, this is the wrong folder. Okay, here we go. All right. So let me start by firstly opening up. I'm just going to cancel this one. Right. So here under the folder that has been created, I can see that it's called NWAR5112. And for all of these modules, I'm just going to edit that because some people, it's also called 5122. So just to avoid confusion, uh, let's just make it so both codes are going to be reflected there. Okay, so if I look now under the content, you'll see that I'm looking for NWAR 5112, and it's for all of these different programs, whether you DINM, DITM, or HCSS or HSS. NWAR, it's going to contain the content. Now, the purpose of this session is to prepare you so that you can be successful in the supplementary. Now, since this is a POE module, it means that you need to resubmit your POE. Now, you can see currently I've got some submission videos here, POE submission video 4, video 3, video 2, and then there's also video 1. But I'll be adding more content here as we go along, okay? So if I look at the submission video 4, it takes me to a YouTube video. So there's a YouTube video, and you can see that in this session, I'm going to be talking about the network architecture POE. This is the final video for the network architecture POE that's due next week, Thursday. So here now you can see that if you go to different parts of the video, I have discussed exactly what is required in order for you to be successful in completing the POE, and then also how is this POE going to be marked, okay? So this is the first video that you will probably start by watching, okay? And then you will continue, you'll see that certain of the activities are also covered in the previous videos as well. But start here. If there's some information that is missing from here, then you go back and you watch the other videos, right? So you start with this video. It shows you exactly what is required and what needs to be done. Okay. Now, let me start from scratch. Apart from this video and the other videos that have been recorded previously, this session is being recorded as well, okay? Because there might be something that was not covered in these videos or some other questions that you might have that you can ask now. So if I open up this POE document here, I can see that let me go to the marking rubric for the POE and see exactly what is required of me to be successful when submitting my POE. Now, I've covered this in previous videos, so here I'm not going to go into it in much detail, right? I'm going to tell you exactly what is required, and I'm going to tell you where to go to get the information. From my experience, students have failed because they don't know what needs to be done, and they don't know where to find the information that's going to tell them what needs to be done, or alternatively, they've just not done the work. Okay, in other words, there's certain work that needs to be completed in order for you to be successful in submitting a POE that's going to allow you to pass this module. Now, let's start at the POE marking rubric. It says that the final POE needs to be in 5 parts or 5 activities. Activity 1 is your part 1 and part 2 marked and feedback report. And for that, they're going to give us 10 marks, right? So whether you've got feedback, whether you submitted it, whether there was a problem, whether your work was marked or whether it was not marked is not important here. Whatever work has been done previously, you need to submit that work, and then very importantly, you need to report on that work. And I'll show you what I'm talking about just now. In other words, I'm saying don't go back now and do activity part 1 or part 2 if you've not done it before. Okay, so you're not doing those part 1 and part 2 activities before. If you've not done your virtual computers and you don't have virtual computers to work with right now to complete part 2, it is not a problem. Okay, listen to what needs to be done for you to be successful in completing this POE. So there's 10 marks for submitting reports on part 1 and part 2. Reports you can write now. Activity 2 is about writing reports on your ICE tasks. Here again, even if you've not completed your ICE activities, you can write a report on the ICE activities, okay? And that's going to give you some of the 5 marks. In the same way, you're going to get some of the 10 marks, okay? So you need to, when you are submitting, name your documents correctly so that I can clearly see this is your part 1, this is your feedback on the part 1, and what corrections were made. Similarly, for activity 2, you're going to submit the ICE tasks if you've done them. If you've not done them, don't submit it. Submit a report about the ICE tasks, and you will get some of the 5 marks. Activity 3 is on a network diagram, right? You need to draw a network diagram, and this has been shown to you in the videos, right? So I'm not going to go through the video to the process of showing you how to draw a network diagram again, because this has been done in the videos. So when I say there's some work that you need to do, it means you need to go and watch those videos and then complete the activity that the video shows you how to do and complete your network diagram. There's 10 marks here. You should get your 10 marks for that, right? Then the final solution is a presentation on and this is 15 marks. So we have to do this presentation. And in the videos, I've shown you how to do a presentation, how to record audio. You don't need to record video, right? You just need to record audio. And I've also explained, if you do not have screenshots from your part 2, or if you've not done the part 2, then you need to explain how this would be done, and you can take a screenshot of the internet as long as you have referenced that screenshot, right? So in this part, you need to do what? Prepare a PowerPoint presentation, add some narration. In other words, you record and you tell me about what is happening on each of the different slides. Then you submit that presentation, okay? In activity 5, which is evaluation and report plus rubric, right? These are 2 documents here, a report document plus the rubric, right? Many people, what they do here is they submit 1 and they only get 5 out of the 10 marks. There's 2 documents that need to be submitted here. So I'm going to go back now to part 1 and I'm going to say, what is it that I need to submit? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create for yourself a POE folder on your OneDrive. And when you're going to be uploading your POE, you go to this one folder and you will have all of your documents there. So let's see how to do this first. So I'm going to go now into my network NWAR folder, and I'm going to create a folder that I can use to put all my documents in that I'm going to be submitting for my POE. All right. So I'll create a new folder here. And I'm going to call this my NWAR POE, and I'm going to put my student number here. Now, all the documents that I need is going to be put into this. So I can see here, I've got some ice task, pictures of my ice task. So I'm going to put those ice tasks inside my NWAR folder. And then I'm going to look for where's the other documents that I have. So I've got part 1, part 2, there's some guidelines here, and then I've got reports as well. So I'm going to select all the documents that I need. Part 1 guidelines, part 2 guidelines, ice tasks, and there's my PowerPoint, right? Activity 3 illustration. So I'm going to put all of that in one place. So the place that I'm going to be looking for now in future is going to be my NWAR POE folder. So I'm going to go inside my folder now, and I can see inside of my folder, I have all of the documents that I need. Now, let me go back to this document here that shows me part 1 and part 2 activity 1. So I'm going to name the folders so that it is reflected correctly, right? Now, let me also look at the marking rubric. When I mark your work, what is it going to look like? So I'm going to look for the marking rubric that I use to mark your POE. So part 2 POE marking rubric, right? So when I'm looking at your POE now, I'm going to go through this rubric and I'm going to check, do you have all of these things that you were supposed to have done? Okay, there's the full mark, and then there's the marks that I'm going to be allocating. So let's look at the first activity. It says activity 1, task 1, part 1 of the POE. If you've got your original with feedback, the marked one, you get 2 marks, right? You get 3 marks now for writing one report, okay? And what must you include in this report that you're going to write? You're going to write a report on task 1, and you'll say in your report, where did you lose marks? Why did you lose marks there? And what could you have done to correct it? Even if you have not done the activity, you can look at it and say, these are the things that I don't know how to do, and this is how I would find out how to do this. Okay, so this is your submission, and then this is one Word document that's going to have feedback. So in previous videos, I've done that, but let me see if I've got that document here now. So I want to have a look now at feedback for part 1. Okay, there's my folder that I've created. Part 1 guidelines, part 2 guidelines. Okay, let's look at part 1 guidelines. All right. So this is a guideline document. Let me go back and look at this activity. Feedback part 1. All right, let me go and quickly create a document to show you what it must look like. All right, so I'm going to name the documents, etc., and I'm going to put it here. So I can see now that I need NWAR POE activity. See now, these documents need to be named correctly. So I will create a new Word document. There's Word? There's Word. And I'm going to call it NWAR POE activity 1 task 1 report. So in this report now, I'm going to put in, that should be NWAR, I'll correct it just now. For each of these, you always need to include what is your student number, what is your name, the module, and the title of this document. So this is NWAR POE activity 1 part 1 report. And I need to include my details, my full name and my student number. And then I'm going to write about part 1, right? So I'm going to write and explain in activity 1 on, in activity 1 for part 1, I was expected to describe how Ethernet works. I did not completely answer the question since I did not describe how Ethernet works to overcome problem of traffic on the network. Network traffic can be overcome by segmenting the network or by adding switches, right? So in your NWAR POE activity 1 part 1 report, you are stating here, in this activity, what were you expected to do in this part 1? Okay. Then you are saying, what didn't you do and what could you have done? I did not completely, okay, I was expected to describe the Ethernet network. I did not completely answer the question since I did not describe how Ethernet works to overcome the problem of traffic on the network. Network traffic can be overcome by segmenting the network or by adding switches. Okay, can you see now? This is a report to indicate you need to go back and reflect on your part one and say, this is what was required of me, this is what I did, this is what I could do better. All right. Now you're going to do exactly the same thing for your part two. Now the part two was a practical. All right. So I'm going to go save this one and go back to my folder. This should be NWAR. So then I'm going to now create another one. I want to create another one. And this is for part task 1, task 2, or part 1, part 2. Okay, so what does it say here? It says part 1 and part 2. So it needs to be part 1 and part 2. So I'm going to go back now, and this is part 1, activity 1, part 1. And this is going to be the report for part 2. So this is part 2. I can take out that copy from there. I don't need the copy. Now, clearly, I'm labeling what these documents are. Okay, so this one is part 1, this one is part 2. So in this document here, oh, it did not save my work. Okay. Okay, so I was having some lock-on problems, so that's why it's not saving my work, but it's going to save it now. So that NWAR, this is activity 1, POE, activity 1, part 2, and then I need to always include my name and my student number. And then I'm going to say in question 1, I was required to, let's go and have a look at what was question 1. Okay, so this was part 2. This was part 2, the first question. Did they call it activity 1? Let's see. Activity 1. Let me go back now to activity 1. In activity 1, so this should be activity, I was required to take screenshots of the DNS settings. DNS settings may be configured by opening Server Manager, selecting the DNS console, then expanding the relevant setting, and thereafter taking the relevant screenshot. Then you can say, for example, and I can go and look now for an example, right? And I can just do one example. So I want now, I'm looking for, let me go and look for a DNS setting. So I'm going for DNS setting, Windows Server 2016. So it tells me how to go here, right? So if I'm not sure, I can also go and find the information here, okay? And then I'm looking for an image of what it looks like, all right? So there's an image now of DNS settings. So I can see there's DNS settings. I can copy this image and I can put it in here. And I need to reference it as well. So where did I get this image from? So I got the image from here. For example, the following image shows, and then you'll explain which DNS settings. So here I can see that it's got a setting. They've got a Server 2016 Active Directory, and then they've got a domain, and the domain is called, this is the name of their domain, and then you can explain what's going on in this picture, right? So now, simply by doing a document like this, okay, you are now going to get your 3 marks for this activity here. So you can see task 1 or part 1, right? You got 2 marks for submitting the original work and the feedback. You get 3 marks for writing this one report. Same thing here. For submitting the original work, it's 2 marks. 3 marks is given for that one report that I said I wanted. Then here, describe at least 4 of your ICE tasks. Okay. Then it says select one of the ICE tasks, explain the new knowledge, and then explain the hard and soft skills learned. For submitting your ICE task, you get 1 mark. For writing a report on the ICE task, you get 4 marks, right? So for activity 2, you're going to submit a report. sorry, if you've done the ICE task, you submit the ICE task. In addition to that, you write a report. Okay, so you need to write now, this is activity 2 ICE task report. So I go back to my folder and I say here, this is my NWAR POE and activity 2. This is my ICE task report. So I can see NWAR POE ICE activity 2 ICE task report. So from this report now, I'm going to do what? I'm going to now put in that relevant information. Okay, so I was expected to do the following activities. This is what I did. This is what I learned. And then you write about the hard skills and soft skills, etc. Where is all of that information covered? It's covered here. So there's it here, right? It tells you, describe at least 4 ICE tasks completed. Which of the 4 ICE tasks are best? What was the task about and what were you expected to do? What did you do? How did you perform in the task? What new knowledge did you acquire and what hard and soft skills did you learn, right? So you need to answer these questions in this document that you have created, okay? So answer those in this document. Then we've completed now this part. So going back now to the marking rubric, I've completed activity 1, activity 2. Activity 3 now says there's a network diagram that I need to create. Now the network diagram has been done for you, or I've shown you in a previous video. So I'm not going to go through the entire process again, but I will show you what does the diagram look like, right? So let's see if I've got a network diagram that has been, there's a network illustration, activity 3, right? So there's my network illustration. So you can see it needs to be a diagram that's going to look something like this, okay, with all of the components that are there, and also they got names, the rooms have got names, the devices have got names, and I've got additional text boxes that gives additional information. Like network topology, it says it's the star topology. Network area, it says it's the LAN, local area network. Network type, it's a client server network. And also notice in this document that you've got what is the POE? The person's name is here as well, right? So your name, and then your student number and group. All right, so I'm going to save that. So it's clearly illustrating all the relevant information. Can you see that? Okay. So this is what it's required now. You need to create your own diagram like this. How to do this? I've done it in a previous video. You can watch it on the YouTube channel. What's the next one? Activity 4 is the presentation now. Okay. Now, in the presentation, you can see that there's a number of marks that have been allocated for your name, surname, the program, module code, presentation, etc. I've gone through all of this in a previous video, so I'm not going to go through it again. And I've also done the recording of this as well. But what I'm going to highlight is that this is a major part of the marks, 15 marks, okay? You have to do a presentation in PowerPoint. You have to include all of these relevant slides. If there's some screenshots that you don't have, you go and grab a screenshot from where? From the internet. You reference it and you explain what is happening on the screenshot. Okay, so don't go back and now create virtual computers. Simply take existing screenshots, but explain in your own words what needs to be done and what does the screenshot illustrate and correctly reference. And then the last one is two activities, two reports here, 5 marks each, self-reflection and self-evaluation. So let me go back to that folder. There's a presentation here. Okay, so this is the student's presentation. And you can see that they've given the relevant screenshots. There's also recorded the necessary screenshots, and they put in a conclusion, right? So very importantly, you need to do exactly the same thing, all right? So the guideline on this is given to you in the video, and also you will find all of the relevant slides on the marking rubric. So this marking rubric that I'm using is taken directly from your POE document. So if I go down here to the next POE document, so there's the marks for activity 2, activity 3, activity 4, which is the PowerPoint presentation. Can you see it tells you exactly what are the marks going to be given for? So you need to ensure that you have a slide for each of these different marks. If I don't see the slide, I cannot allocate a mark for you. And then it says there's your self-reflection. So the self-reflection now you can see, if I go back to self-reflection here, this is what a report looks like. Part 1, I learned the difference between Ethernet, token ring, FDDI, and Wi-Fi. I also learned how Ethernet deals with two computers transmitting at the same time and how modern Ethernet works to increase performance. I learned how to draw up a network diagram using Microsoft Visio. I understand what an IP address and subnet mask is and the role and function of each of them. I learned that the devices on the network need addresses. I understand the difference between a MAC address and an IP address. An IP address comes from the internet, and then the MAC address comes from the manufacturer. I learned ways of overcoming the issue of running out of IP addresses as the internet has expanded, right? Now, this is what a self-reflection report looks like, right? What did I learn from the work that I did in completing the POE? It is not, I learned a lot. I learned I must work harder. That's not a reflection, right? A reflection is about what are the activities that you have done and what have you learned from completing those activities? Or even if you've not done it previously, whilst you were completing this POE, you must have learned something, right? Whatever you have learned whilst completing this POE is what you're going to put into this document, right? So this is the self-reflection report. Then the evaluation is simply a table. In the table, so you create yourself a table like this, a Word document table. You write reflection, demonstration of learning, organization, demonstration, and then you give yourself a score, right, out of 10. So this is called self-evaluation. So there's two parts to activity 5. So once you've checked that you've got all of the relevant documents there, you will upload all of this at the same time. And I've shown you how to do that in a previous video as well. So now I'm going to open the forum for discussion. So the class can now ask any questions about what is discussed. And if there's anything that you don't know how to do in order for you to complete this portfolio so that you can be successful. Let's just have a look. So is there some questions that you have? Is it clear what has been done? Do you understand what work needs to be done, where to find the relevant information?
Yes, sir. So far I understand what I should do, sir. So is there like any way I can contact you whenever I have problems or I encounter some challenges, sir, while I'm busy with the
Yes.
POE?
You can use my email address. It's snaidu@iie.ac.za.
Okay, sir.
So that email address that they've got on RC Learn is the email address. That's my work email address, and I checked that. So then also I said that you're going to go and look at this folder as well. So use my email address. I don't provide support via WhatsApp, right? So many students have got my number, but it's not possible for me to do WhatsApp because I'm not always in front of a computer, right? So
Okay.
when I can, I will respond to you via email.
Okay, sir.
But go through these videos. I'll put all the additional information in this folder as well. And then communicate with others that might be part of your class that are also writing supplementary so that you can guide them as well. By helping others, you'll be helping yourself.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so that's it for today.
No, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.